Everybody, we're back once again with a Move with Momentum podcast. I have John Brooks, who joins me for each one of these episodes. And John, today we have a very, very important topic. Make some people uncomfortable, but we're going to just jump in and talk about it. The taboo subject of money and finances in real estate. So let me just start this. Our mission at Momentum, our mission statement is to help our community build wealth through real estate. And wealth, as we define it in our country, the way it works in our world, is money. Right? Money is an extremely taboo subject, and you need money to have a big life, right? We just have to admit that that's the way the world works. And in real estate, something that amazed me when I got into this and kind of pulled back the curtain is the amount of vanity metrics, the amount of success everybody's having online and all these homes that they're selling. And really what's happening is they're making their brokerage a ton of money. So we need to talk about broker splits. We need to talk about agent finances. But what to you is the most important thing, not only when you're evaluating a brokerage, but the most important thing in real estate that's happening with agent finances right now?
Well, Bruce, this is a very important topic, I would say, is that real estate agents do not do the math. And I mean, it's just as simple as that. There's agents who, and I don't blame them. Again, like I don't blame the agent. They don't do the math. You got your license. You're so excited. You're just going to go to any brokerage you can. You just want experience, right? And there's something to be said for that. Though long-term, does the math make financial sense for you to build wealth through real estate? Like, is it an actual platform where you can build wealth? There is so much noise out there in the brokerage world, in so many shiny objects that are out there, but there's really truly very few variables that matter. So that's why we're doing these podcasts, is just to speak a truth from our perspective, right? If you have a different perspective and you don't like what we have to say, that's cool. Like that's your opinion. We're not here to disagree or to make stuff up. We just want to say, look, here's our experience, here's our perspective. Take what you may, and if you don't like it, then at least you have another perspective to look through. But at the end of the day, Brittany and I are ex-investment bankers. Like Bruce said, we live in a financial world. It has to be a conversation. Like you can have wealth and health, you can have wealth and family, you can have wealth and all these other things, but we live in a financial world. Like you need to go buy stuff at the grocery store. You want to have a good, we spend most of our life working. So if you don't have to work as much because you can buy back your time by building systems and models to become wealthier faster, that's a win. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're talking about teaching through Momentum and what we have done personally ourselves, and the people who are valid in our community that are building their wealth extraordinarily fast, way faster than we've observed at other brokerages where they might have higher splits. There's agents out there who work so hard and then have nothing to show for it at the end of the day, because maybe they haven't even had the right tax structure and they're overpaying their taxes. We just had a 40-minute tax specialist come in for 40 minutes and teach our agents, how do you create an LLC? How do you get an EIN number? How do you get an S Corp? How do you pay yourself a salary? Because tax is your largest expense. Your second largest expense typically, when you're a real estate business owner, is your split with your brokerage. Right? So you want to minimize your expenses as much as possible and increase your revenues and maximize the value that you get from them. So first, minimize your tax. Number two, talk with your broker about or think about what you are getting in return for what you are putting into your broker. So if you have a 36% split, I'm not saying that that's the wrong model for you. What I'm saying is, what are you getting back for it? Because maybe the value that you are getting back for that 36% of your total commission dollar is really high. Maybe it makes sense. The agents don't do the math to see if it does. So we had a conversation on our last podcast, I believe, like it might have been the most expensive print job ever, because if all you do is go into the office and print out stuff and you're paying 36% and you never use the office, where do you think your money goes? Okay. When you pay a brokerage 36%, they have leadership there. So are you getting value from the leadership? Are you getting value from their admin assistant? Are you getting value from their marketing director? How often are you using that? Are you getting billed monthly, or are you just getting the splits? Or are you getting both? Right? All those things add up. Are you getting your errors and omissions? Are you getting dot loop? Are you getting pay at close? Are you getting the service that you want from your brokerage to answer the questions that you have? And are they treating you like a business partner? So there's 100 different things you could use as examples of like what could be the value and what is the value of each individual variable that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Is it worth 36% for each one of those individually? And so that's a big question that agents have to ask. And for like the team perspective, if they split 50-50 and then they have to have a 36% split with their brokerage, and then they have to pay maybe a transaction fee, they're below, 35% on their net commission, and then they have to pay tax. And that's assuming a 3% commission, not a 2.5. Then they have to pay self-employment tax. They have to pay for their own health insurance. And then they have to pay their mortgage and their groceries. And if they have kids, they have daycare. You start to see why. Why are most real estate agents just flat broke? And we are tired of it.
Yep.
And we don't think that that's the way it should be. The only people who are making money are your real estate brokerage and all the ancillary businesses that you send your referral business to. Mm-hmm. And the agent ends up doing all the work and getting virtually nothing. And they don't even, because they're not doing the math, they don't realize that. So at Momentum, that's what the conversation is different. Like, let's start with the math and figure out, does the model make sense first before we plug in and put the energy in? Because a lot of people don't check out the math ahead of time. They end up doing a lot of work and they spin their wheels and they're just not paying attention to it while it's the most important thing. Your scoreboard in business, Bruce, is your bank account.
Yep. It
is not what you post on Facebook. If you're an agent out there, I saw today, everybody's like, I did 1.5 mil, I did this, I did 2 mil. Okay, great. Okay, that's awesome. So you know how to produce and you know how to sell a piece of real estate. What did you net off of that? Because if you did $1 million in sales and made $30,000 in commission, but you had to spend 20 grand to get that, and then your brokerage took 6 grand of it, you have 4 grand left, and then you have to pay taxes on that 4 grand and your own self-employment tax. That's not winning.
Nope. Because at the end of the day, you still can't pay for groceries. So let's really hammer this point home. Your scoreboard in business is your bank account. How uncomfortable do you think that makes people feel when they hear that? Because it's true. Is it accurate that it makes people uncomfortable because it's a taboo subject? We love to celebrate those wins on social media. We love to celebrate those, but we don't talk about the opportunities for improvement in our lives. I'm still flat broke. I don't own a house. I all I do is work. And meanwhile, my team leader or the heads of the brokerage are living in high-rise buildings and have these elaborate, amazing houses on my back, on my sweat that I put into this work. So I want to talk specifically about numbers, about the 50-50 split and being on a team with a broker split, and then just being a regular agent. Let's start with a 50-50 split. How many homes do you have to sell per year to make a living wage and live above the poverty line on a team with a 50-50 split plus a broker split?
Like 16. We did the math before. But it depends because there's so many models out there, Bruce. So like if you're on a team but you're not at a 36% brokerage or a 30% brokerage, maybe you're at a 20%. I mean, you're gonna have to sell 1 to 2 a month to be above like the median salary for Jacksonville if you're gonna have another job. But then you have to account in your health insurance and all these other little things, right? Like there's a lot of variables to consider. I think that the different conversation is you are paying for what you're getting one way or another. So let me put it this way. So you join a brokerage as 36%, but they offer you everything that you think is available for them to offer. If you don't use everything, then you're not getting the value back out of that 36%. You could go to 100% commission brokerage and just buy what is needed for you to run your business and keep the spread and the difference. Do you see the difference there? Mm-hmm. There's different value. So like, why would you pay for stuff you're not using?
Yeah. Because it feels good and it sounds nice. It's those shiny objects that we're talking
about. Forget about it.
Yeah.
They get you, dude. It's like a subscription to Costco. Like you might go once a year. I don't know. I love Costco, but I'm not going to it right now. You pay for it once a year and they get you on a subscription model and then you forget about the math.
Yeah.
That's how they make money.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they do it. So if I'm an agent trying to evaluate if the split I'm paying is worth it, I would start by finding out what I'm getting for what I'm paying. I would divide it out and find how much I'm paying for each thing. Like you said, the most expensive print job. And that's a question we get so often. Do you have printing in the office? And I can't figure out why. Why is that? What people are still uber focused on that is because they don't realize what's really important. I think that goes back to that conversation. What's really important in your business? And is it worth paying all this money for?
There's a misconception of what's valuable and what's not. I mean, Brittany and I don't even use paper. Our printer here is broken. Like we didn't even need to fix it. And Brittany's running the whole brokerage by herself. You know what I mean? So like, there's just a misconception of what's valuable and what's not. Like what would be more valuable? They're like, oh, I want to print stuff for my open house. I want to print stuff for this. Okay, well, do you want to learn another way where you don't have to do printing? You don't have to do all that mess? And usually they don't. So like, right, there's like an adoption issue there from people. And that's with every industry. When you try to get people to do things differently, not everyone's going to adopt to the new world, which means they're going to go ahead and spend their money, spend their time on stuff that isn't going to move the ball forward for their business. And that's like $100 conversation. Mm-hmm. That shouldn't be the conversation like we talked about on the other one. It should be like, who do I have to become to get to the next level in real estate sales and hit my financial goals? Well, guess what? If you're printing and you sell like 5 houses and you have your printer and all that kind of good stuff, but your brokerage takes 36% of your commission and your bank account's empty, then you just got an expensive print job. Mm-hmm. So like it's the wrong question. Is what I'm paying in, am I getting back the return on that?
So I think the challenge here for people who are listening is to take a second, get out a sheet of paper and just do the math, right? Think back of, you've got to know your numbers. And we encounter so many people in recruiting and having business conversations that don't know their numbers, like you say. The challenge here is to start learning your numbers, or you're going to just wonder why I'm still living paycheck to paycheck and I'm commission hungry. You know what I mean? My life's not changing. My life's not getting better. I'm in this real estate sales rat in a wheel type thing. And I'm going to wake up in 20 years and be like in bad health, still broke. And so the actionable thing here is do the math, get out a sheet of paper, write down how much you've made, write down how much you've spent, write down how much your broker is taking from you in that split, and evaluate. And then you got to decide. Well, yeah, and it may be worth it, but you have to, you're like an ostrich with your head in the sand right now, trying to ignore what's really going on. But like, you just have to look at it in front of you. And that's step one, and starting to evaluate. And then if it's not worth it, have a conversation or make a change.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce, when Brittany and I were running the Brooks Group, we had an income statement with every dollar that we had spent in the organization. We knew exactly what our tax rate was before our taxes came out. And these are the type of things that the agents should know how to do, because when you get into real estate, you're a business owner and you should be evaluating your 2 largest expenses every month. And what I think happens is they don't do it, and maybe because they don't want to acknowledge it, and they're going to get away with it and be comfortable with it as long as they possibly can until it really starts to create enough pain where they need to pay attention to it. And then what happens is they can't have a conversation with us where like, I have to change. And then they're in a deep hole that they have to dig out of, which we can help with, right? I've coached people across the country to dig out of the financial hole many times. Yeah. And by the way, it's not as complicated as you might think. And that's something that we're really passionate about. Bruce, I know you're passionate about it too, like getting people out of debt. We come up with game plans. We come up with strategies. We have accountability groups towards it. We celebrate the wins when it's done. Everyone's encouraged. It's not something to be ashamed of. Like 90% of America is like living hand to freaking mouth right now. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, but you can't get past it until you acknowledge it. And the 2 biggest expenses, again, are your taxes, which you need to have a tax plan. And number 2, your brokerage. And maybe they are providing you enough value, maybe not. If they're not, then go find somewhere where you're going to get more value from being there than what you pay in. That's winning, period.
Yep. And your bank account will start increasing. So for me, when I counsel people about personal finance, it's about intentionality and focusing on, well, what's my singular goal? And then you put all your energy and your extra dollars towards that. If it's getting out of debt, but even before that, you've got to figure out how to use your income correctly to meet that goal. So if you're paying out all your money to your broker for all these things that don't make sense, so it still starts with sitting down and figuring out the math. Starts with math. Tell me, I know there are members of the Brooks group who had that struggle, who were on a team. We don't need to shout their names out, but like, tell me their experience, because you witnessed it firsthand. And this person was working like crazy, and at the end of the day, like you said, she has all these expenses. What was your experience with her? Because I think your eyes opened a little bit.
We've already talked about this in other ones. Her name's Michelle, and she's freaking awesome. Yeah. And when we had our baby in February 2019, we realized very quickly that I was not able to close 200 homes on my own as a solo agent and take over Brittany's book of business of buyers. So Michelle came in and she handled the buyers. I think she closed like 30 homes in 6 months. It was crazy. Yeah. And after the splits between us, the splits with the brokerage, her having to pay for daycare and health insurance and all these other, pay her mortgage, even though she was like an insane producer and was doing everything the right way and extremely experienced, her financial goals were not going up. And that's when we were like, the model's broken. Like if you're on a team at a big box, like it's broken. Like I'm like, do the math. Like the math sucks. Like you're not going to become a net worth millionaire in 5 years being like, maybe you are, but you're going to have to outwork your model. Right? Like you would have to be like so extraordinary, like to the extreme that you would have to outwork your financial model and do something that would be out of the norm. And what we're saying is maybe that's the right move for you. There's no judgment there, but there's another way to do it that is like 10 times easier. And that's getting into a model that works for you versus against you and provides you value versus takes value from you. And so that's the idea of momentum came around. It's like, well, what would the splits have to look like for everything to operate for Michelle to become a net worth millionaire in 5 years based on her current production level?
Yep. And by the way, I mean, she did 30 deals in, what'd you say, 6 months?
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, it was like 26 or 30 is.
So that's considered a top producer in the market. And at the end of the day, her bank account's empty.
It wasn't pretty.
Yeah. No. And so what we're saying from the start here is that she was in a structure that was broken from the start. No matter from the ground, she was set up for failure. No matter.
I mean, she could have doubled it, but her lifestyle would have been so bad it wouldn't have been sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. So the takeaway here is that the structure of the brokerage is extremely important. Next to taxes, it's the number 2 thing that's most important. So evaluate it. If you're not meeting your financial goals, evaluate the split and what you're getting for it. That's the takeaway here. But you have to be intentional and sit down and, like we said, do the math and figure it out. And then if you need to have some conversations.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to call Bruce, man. Bruce will do the math with you.
Let's have a conversation.
I'll do the math with you. I mean, a lot of the times you're giving a rental property to your broker every single year.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And think about the wealth building potential going forward. Extrapolate that out over 20 years. What you're giving away now in your formidable working years, where you're trying to build this big business, it's never going to work. And you're building someone else's rental portfolio. Oh, I'm getting fired up here.
No, I know. And the other side of the coin is there's a lot of 100% commission brokers out there or flat fee brokers out there. And the question is, for that, like that's the opposite side of the coin, right? Like try to get from low value, high cost into something that's like equal value. And then the other side, there's like you're paying money in, but you get nothing. And the people who are around you, the average producer does 4 units per year. That's their standard is 4 units per year. That's one every 3 months. And so you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you're literally opting in to a system that is average, like below average too, because the average agent does closer to 7 to 9 deals now. So you're now associating yourself with people who produce half of what the standard is in the United States. And so how's that going to impact you? Mm-hmm. Being in that environment, in that mindset? Because again, like this is a conversation about sitting down and doing the math and accountability. Is a 4 unit producer going to have accountability?
They don't do enough business to do so.
They don't have enough money. And maybe it's because they don't have access to that level of conversation to be like, hey, there's a different way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So
and again, there's no judgment around it. It's just there's a lot of part-time agents out there, right?
So we've been focusing on the fat splits. So what you're bringing up here is another concept of it shouldn't just be about paying the least amount. It's, again, evaluating the value for who you're partnering with and what you're getting out of what you're paying in. But again, you got to be intentional about it. So I think this is going to start some conversations, even with people themselves thinking like, what am I getting? So this is definitely worth the talk, and we need to revisit this topic. But I know inside Momentum, we are constantly having this conversation with agents, because Momentum agents get it, because we are always talking about this, about what's truly important. So, I mean, the wins that we've seen are amazing. And so it's super, I mean, back to how this conversation started, our world works with money. And if you don't have it, you're going to be spending your time getting it for the rest of your life. So you got to figure out how to get it. So you could, like you said, buy your time back. That's hugely powerful.
Get it, keep it, and keep it. Like, getting it's not enough. You got to keep it. And that means having less hands in your pocket and smaller hands in your pocket, and then aligning yourself with people who know how to go and get more faster and easier, so you get your lifestyle back. Because there's two sides of that coin. You know, you can outwork your model, but your lifestyle, I mean, that's not sustainable. Something will happen. You will have a health issue. There could be, you know, a death in the family. Like, stuff happens, like, right? Like, life happens. You need to be prepared for it. And if you're giving your broker or somebody else a rental property every single year, or the government a rental property every single year that you didn't need to give them, those are yours. Yep. Don't give them away. You know, you need to really think about it and sit down, like Bruce said, with a piece of paper, with an Excel spreadsheet, and figure out am I getting the value out of what is being put in. And some stuff you can't value, but most of it you can. And you at least need to explore all your options, at least annually, I would say, to figure out if there's is there another place that I'm going to grow the most and make the most money?
Yep. Because
this is business. This isn't about, oh, I like this person more than that person. That's high school. That's high school level conversation. Oh, I love my broker. Is your broker going to buy you groceries at the grocery store, right? Like, I love this, I love that. Emotional stuff. Okay. No, this is business. Business is not on the emotional side like that. We're talking about hardcore numbers. And when you came into real estate, you decided to be an entrepreneur and run a business. So listen up, like, get it together.
Yep. And I get that all the time. I have the best broker in the business, but are you growing?
I don't know what that means, by the way. Like, no, best at work. It's a cop-out statement because they're comfortable where they are and they don't like discomfort, but you don't grow in comfort, you grow in discomfort. So if you're afraid of having that conversation, like, lean into it. Like, come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Life is short. If you're going to be average, like, somewhere else, like, come on, you guys can do more. Like, I know this real estate agent community can do way more than what they're currently doing, and they can provide way better service to the public. I know it. I've seen glimmers of it, and you guys can do it. And it's having these conversations. Look, I don't care if you come to Momentum. We didn't create Momentum to like literally make $1 billion off of every single real estate agent. That's not why we're doing this. We did this because we built wealth through real estate ourselves, and we want to help other people do the same. All right. If you are not interested in switching brokerages, you can still talk to us. We're harmless. I swear, we're not going to put the pressure on you. We actually only accept like 50% of the people that talk with us, you know, who want to join us too, because we're not the right fit for everybody. We have different personalities. We have different mindsets. Some people may not be the right fit for us right now, but might be a good fit later down the road once they have more experience under their belt. And there's no judgment around where everybody's at. I mean, some of our best friends are at other brokerages. They come to all of our training events and they learn from what we're doing. We're learning from them. This is about communal wisdom to elevate the level and skill and care so agents can become wealthy. When they become wealthy, their clients become wealthier because their clients make better decisions. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy all the way through. And that is what we're passionate about. So again, like, you don't need to join us. Like this is not why we're doing this podcast. This is more of an educational piece to share perspective, and you can choose. And if it's a disruptive conversation, we have targets on our back from other people, bring it on. That's what we're about. We want to disrupt. We want to have a conversation, and we're having so much fun with a tribe of, I think we have like 68 agents right now at Momentum, my wife's brokerage. And gosh, man, they are infectious. The energy is infectious. Business is way more fun when you're making money, guys.
Yep. And to tie a nice bow around it, ultimately, if you're happier, you're making more money, you can take care of your family, you can go on that vacation. Who, whatever your goal is, who doesn't want to meet that? And that's it. You go where you are going to meet your goals.
It's fear, Bruce, is the number one thing holding people back, because they're scared to talk about it, because it's been taboo in this country for way too long. They don't teach it in schools. They teach you to be worker bees. And it's unfortunate. And that's the cycle that we've gotten in, and you can break it. That's why real estate is such a cool industry, because what you get out of it is what you put into it. And you need to make sure that you're with the right tribe that knows how to do that, like how to put it in. Like if you put the effort in and you're putting the effort in and you're not seeing the result, you need to change who you're hanging out with.
Yep.
All right, I think that's it.
Awesome, man. We got a little fired up on this one, but it's necessary. We have to talk about this stuff. So once again, thank you for joining me. Until next time, this is the Move with Momentum podcast. Thanks, John.